right, Shalom. First, I'd like to start by saying all praise to Yahweh Shem Shai, that my honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. This is just a couple of clips on more prophecies that's going on in the U.S. and around the world. It says Black Lives Matter rallies to be the coolest unrest in the U.S. history, right? And they think it is going to be U.S. history, but this history is going to lead to the destruction of this place. But I'm going to play the clip.
Inner city vandalism that's come in the wake of the Black Lives Matter protests is putting big dents, and not just in police cars and storefronts, also in the U.S. insurers' pockets. They've received damages claims worth billions of dollars.
And the U.S. doesn't have any money to even, really pay nobody back, man. Hence the reason why this whole COVID-19 situation was happening. It was a cover-up. The U.S. was already bankrupt, but they need to bring in this new world order as soon as possible, too. So, but...
Certainly the money that needs to be spent, the businesses that have been completely destroyed, small businesses, Black American businesses, minority businesses, all small businesses of all American citizens together, people's lives have been completely destroyed, not only by the shutdowns from COVID, which again, federal judges are ruling were unconstitutional, shutdowns of the economy, shutdowns of people's lives, but now inciting violence and protests. This is not about George Floyd. This is not about his death or what has happened there. This has now morphed into something that is far bigger. It's all coming up on the 2020 election. Only is violence being carried out but against law enforcement, against police officers, but violence carried out against businesses, destruction of property, loss of lives, which the media in America is completely ignoring.
That's because the media is with it, and they're paid off, and it's part of Esau's agenda. So this second Ezra chapter 9, verse 1, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, which, this is a sign, man. The apostles were told about this in Matthew. Then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Right, so, the title, has the tone of everything, being cool and all that extra stuff, man. But really, this is the end of this society. And the rest of the societies around the world, and the bringing in of the kingdom of heaven, which belongs to the Hebrew Israelites through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. It says, it's like it. Damn. It says, even so the times, it says, for like as all that is made in the world hath the beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and effects, and wonder and powerful works and endings and effects and signs, which is the so-called UFOs everybody's seeing. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works, which is being diligent in the faith, and by faith whereby ye have believed, right, shall be preserved from the said peril. So all this chaos and destruction is going to turn up times 1,000 over here in America. But the ones that's going to be saved is the Lord's elect, his chosen, It says, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation, in my land, within my borders, for I have sanctified them from the beginning. Right. So the Lord set his elect, his chosen, separate from everybody else to deliver them from the chaos and destruction that's going on, not just in America, around the world too, man, because you got brothers all over the world right now that's going through all types of hell and stuff, but they've been delivered from, these situations, you know. But you still got brothers that's going to be put to death too, though. But still, in all, it's of the Lord's decision. So,
as well as the sharp. There is no let up in the suffering of Sudan's flood victims. In Sinjar town in southwestern Sudan, entire neighborhoods remain completely cut off. The Haya Shargi neighborhood is only accessible by canoes. Ahmed Abdullah sent his wife and children to account for the displaced, but chose to remain behind to guard his flooded house. He is angry at the lack of help.
الاستجابة من الحكومة كانت ضعيفة جدا.
The response from the government has been very weak. For the past 3 years, we've been begging the government to reinforce the flood defenses, but they didn't. We went and spoke to everyone from the local authorities to the national government, and still nothing.
The worst floods for 100 years in Sudan completely destroyed most homes in this neighborhood. The government has defended its response so far, saying that it's been hindered by international economic sanctions, as well as the sharp fall in the Sudanese pound.
Our house was the first one to be flooded in the neighborhood. We were asleep. We could only save our lives. Everything we owned got swept away.
Sudan's rapid deployment forces have sprayed insecticides on pools of stagnant water to kill mosquito larvae. But given how widespread the flooding has been, it's almost impossible for everywhere to be disinfected. The destruction of thousands of pit latrines by the floods poses a grave danger to the population. UN agencies like UNICEF are now helping the government run emergency health centers to deal with any outbreaks. At one of the numerous camps for the displaced in Sinjar, UNICEF medical staff are immunizing children against measles and other communicable diseases. The healthcare workers say they're doing everything they can to avoid outbreaks.
Scaling up our nutrition surveillance, now we are conducting mock screening to be on standby for any nutrition outbreak, and also to detect early the malnutrition cases and to treat them and to refer them if they need further treatment.
The government in recent days issued new alerts to communities living on the banks of the Nile that rains in the highlands of neighboring Ethiopia could lead to flash floods. Sudan's Humanitarian Aid Commission says 650,000 people have been affected since the start of the rains in mid-July. Millions of others are facing hardship as the cost of food and transport soars because of the flood disaster and long-running economic turmoil in Sudan. Mohammed Adu, Al Jazeera, Sinjar in southwestern Sudan.
So every time you turn around, there's prophecies happening. Massive demonstrations with Thailand.
Premier march against the monarchy in Thailand and a demand for political reform.
Hurricane Sally came ashore in the early hours of Wednesday morning, slamming into Alabama's coastline. Florida's panhandle also bore the brunt of 165-kilometer-per-hour winds, as heavy rain and storm surges led to life-threatening floods. Many residents were forced to evacuate to hotels as conditions worsened.
I mean, there's got to be people that were left in their offices, things like that at this point. Hopefully everybody got out okay, but I feel for the people that do not have as much stories as we have here.
Sally has now weakened after making landfall, but continues to move at an agonizingly slow pace. Forecasters say that makes this storm extremely dangerous for much of the Gulf Coast. Daylight in Alabama showed a scene of devastation with severe flooding and damaged homes. Logan Estelle was at home in Gulf Shores, where Sally made landfall.
We just rode it out, got on the first floor. We started hearing all of our windows start to pop. Part of the roof started coming off and siding was ripping. We just rode it out.
Last month, Louisiana was hit by one of the most powerful storms on record. Hurricane Laura killed at least 8 people and cost the state billions. And the hurricane season isn't over until the end of November. In addition to Sally, there are several other named storms currently swirling in the Atlantic. That hasn't happened since 1971. Meteorologists here in Miami will soon run out of pre-selected names for this hurricane season and be forced to use the Greek alphabet. That's only ever happened on one other occasion. Florida's governor is warning residents storms currently swirling in the Atlantic. That hasn't happened since 1971 until the end of November. In addition to Sally, there are several other named storms currently swirling in the Atlantic. That hasn't happened since 1971. Meteorologists here in Miami will soon run out of pre-selected names for this hurricane season and be forced to use the Greek alphabet. That's only ever happened on one other occasion. Florida's governor is warning residents not to be complacent as the storm moves across the state. Hurricane Sally is the 4th storm to make landfall this year. Scientists say climate change is making storms like this wetter and slower, a potentially deadly combination. Andy Gallagher, Al Jazeera.
With force and fury,
Wow, this hurricane is no joke.
Hurricane Sally made landfall along the coast of Alabama just after 6 a.m., bringing some of the Gulf of...
Yeah, for that last clip, you see the Lord jacking them up, man. They ain't got no more names. Now they got to go to the Greek alphabet. And, you know, it's the usual. This hasn't happened in either ever or only happened one time before. You know, in 1971 was, probably, 50 years ago? Just about. But
Mexico with it.
No idea where that boat came from.
The storm hit the coast as a Category 2 hurricane, packing sustained winds of more than 165 kilometers an hour.
My wife was just crying because she never seen this before too, and my kids were scared, and I told them it was gonna be okay.
The storm knocked out power lines, leaving more than 500,000 people in Alabama and Florida in the dark. The wind was powerful enough to tip over this tractor trailer. Luckily, the driver wasn't seriously hurt. In Gulf Shores, Alabama, roadways became waterways. Buildings in low-lying areas were flooded, while some high-rises had walls ripped away. In Pensacola, Florida, part of this bridge is now gone. Where it wasn't wind, it was rain. In some areas, the storm was expected.
right, and Esau's lack of this is in Isaiah 14. His the corrosion of this place, man. You know, I'm not invested in this place and keeping this place up. Is one of the reasons why a lot of this stuff is just getting destroyed so easy. You know, so easily. But that's because they ain't got no money. You know, they put all their money into their military might, man. But it's part of their downfall.
To drop anywhere from 60 to 90 centimeters of rain.
I will tell you it's bad. It's going to take a considerable amount of time to clean up from this.
In one neighborhood, the floodwater brought an unwanted visitor.
Oh my God, this is outside of our window. It is a 10 or 12 foot alligator.
The high water conditions also made it difficult for emergency crews to help those who tried to ride out the storm.
Because of the high winds, because of the amount of flooding that we're seeing, our responders right now are having to stage because it's so dangerous.
In one Florida county, more than 100 people were rescued.
We'll either get a boat out there to pick you up or a high water vehicle. We anticipate the evacuations could literally be in the thousands.
Sally has been downgraded, but as it lurches towards the Carolinas, the rain continues to fall, and millions are still at risk from potential floods. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
All right. Slocky, I want to check.
Forget the Olympics.
But yeah. This is that's why, you know, you should never not have a video. You just gotta sit down and take time and, you know, do the diligence, you know. But this is 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Right. So, you know, the prophecies is the chaos and destruction that's happening in these countries. You know, it says, "Fear not the imagination against thee; let not the incredulity of the trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness." Right, man. So those who didn't believe what we had to say, and we got it right about the Bible, are the ones that's gonna die in their unfaithfulness. You got a lot of jakes waking up. You know, the Lord still says it's going to be an elect, a chosen, a small sanctuary, but you got a lot of jakes waking up to what's going on and whatnot, and they're in agreement a whole lot more. They're not as resistant, you know, but they still not of the elect, man. You know, or only time will tell, but a lot of them still not of the elect. Behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Right, and a lot of people dying and stuff from these events, man. Well, if they don't die now, they'll die later via either COVID or catching some type of infection. A lot of people that probably rolled it out didn't have a car to leave or was on bed rest. You never know what a personal situation is, but the U.S. media has always kept things back, so you never know who has died from these situations, man. So that alligator probably got a couple people. And there's multiple alligators. That's just one alligator. There's always alligators in Florida. What is it for? Yeah. But it says, fear none of Slakia. Verse 6, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Right, man. So, Esau gave homosexuals rights, etc. Witches' rights, etc. And the Lord tired of that, I had another precept. Oh. This is Psalms 83, verse 15. So persecute them with thy tempest and make them afraid with thy storm. And as you can see, these storms be causing all these problems, So, with that being said, call Allah Yabashim Shai, double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.